early reaction to the new iPhones was brutal. I think I know why. Last week, Apple introduced their new iPhone models, Plural. For the first time this year, there were two new lines of iPhone, named 5C and 5S. Reaction? Not impressed. The Onion? Ouch! Fortune? Ouch! The stock market? Ouch! Disclosure, I own shares. This is costing me money. Look, there's a lot of merit in the new iPhone models, but apparently not as much merit as some folks had hoped for. But that's only part of the problem. I think the bigger problem is Apple has forgotten a lot of the things that Steve Jobs knew about introducing new products, beginning with secrecy. Advanced rumors had almost everything right, so of course the actual announcement was an anticlimax. The rumors were wrong about one thing, pricing. The market was hoping for a low-cost iPhone that would break open the Asian markets, but what Apple delivered was the same pricing tiers they've always had, low, medium, high. And what they used to do was keep last year's model in stock for the middle-tier pricing. But this year, Apple introduced a new, mildly upgraded version of last year's iPhone 5. They call it iPhone 5C. Ooh, shiny. But more than just shiny. The camera has improved. Phone has a new low-power chip for tracking how you move. More on that later. And longer battery life. Always welcome. And bonus, Apple is offering free 5 of their best apps. Is that a jaw-dropping advance over last year? No, but it is better than just giving you last year's model with no improvements. At the high end, there's the 5S. Apple made a leap forward in processing power, jumping to a 64-bit chip called A7. Moore's Law on the march. It's by far the fastest processor in the smartphone universe. Now, most of the benefits of the new architecture lie in the future, but from day one, games will run faster with better motion, visual effects. Camera will start taking better pictures. Some new photo advances compensating for motion blur, a smart flash that matches the color temperature of the room you're shooting in, and the ability to take slow motion HD video. Yes, slow-mo HD from your phone. Hello? And the front-facing camera, the selfie camera, that also gets an upgrade. Given that smartphones dominate photography these days, those are important advances and they'll be used and they'll be appreciated. Like the 5C, the 5S also has that new dedicated motion tracking chip called M7. It's a low-power chip, which means your phone can be aware of what you're doing even when the phone is sleeping. Expect a new wave of health and fitness apps that won't kill your battery. And then the fingerprint thingy. Harry McCracken says it's the most important new feature in iPhone 5S. It simplifies the whole business of keeping your data safe while giving you quick access to it just with a touch. So why did the world go, eh? Well, one reason is competition is heated up. Apple still leads in many respects, but not all. We're at a point where objective competitive advantage is narrow and overlapping, which gets me to what I think is the core of Apple's problem. They're losing sight of how to project their je ne sais quoi. What they're doing is putting a lot more emphasis on talking about design. You may have seen the Designed in California campaign. Paradox. Design is unquestionably a core attribute of the Apple brand, and clearly Johnny Ive has influenced design far beyond Apple. His brilliance became even more apparent this week as people started downloading iOS 7. Well, some dissent, but mainly praise. Sir Johnny has earned his knighthood. But talking too much about design is a trap. The new iPhone is a pleasing object to hold, to handle, to fondle. Johnny, I already have a pleasing object to hold and handle and fondle and stroke. You sold it to me 3 years ago. Steve Jobs' pitch used to go something like this. You know what sucks? People have never been able to do this, or they couldn't do it easily, or there's been something missing in our lives, or something sucky in our lives that we want to get rid of. And he would go on to describe some hole in the universe that nobody was filling. We didn't even know this hole existed until Steve pointed it out, and then whomp, he filled it. Steve knew what preachers know. You have to paint a picture of hellfire before you can offer salvation. Steve was great at identifying itches we didn't know we had and then giving us the perfect way to scratch them. Johnny Ive only knows one itch, how to get a great object that simply works. And that's an important itch to scratch, but it was the same itch he scratched last year and the year before that. Johnny Ive can design a great product, but Steve Jobs knew how to sell one. Until next time, I'm Mickeleh. Mickeleh's take? Apple's going to have a last laugh this round. Once people get their hands on the iPhone 5S, reality will trump the haters. You watch. Reviews are already coming in, and they're pretty good. Some of you may know I worked at Apple during the dark times when Steve was in exile. We did our best to keep the lights on until his return. For more on Apple, here's my account of the worst Apple keynote ever, Gil Amelio at his gilliest. And this is a tribute to Steve Jobs that I posted when he announced he was stepping aside as Apple CEO for health reasons. More videos on the way. Subscribe and you'll raise the odds that YouTube will let you know the next time I upload. Or follow me on Twitter @Mickeleh, and I will let you know myself.